What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This your boy Bangful B of the Lassiter Factor, and today I'm going to talk about Babe, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary. It was a childhood favorite of mine, and the more I think about it with adult eyes and with an adult mindset, the more I realize how much of this movie is a masterpiece. So today I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons why Babe is one of the best family films ever made. Number one, the story. Now, keep in mind, this movie is based on a book, but it is just a little bizarre, the context of this movie, because this movie is basically about a bunch of talking animals, and the only human characters you interact with the most are the two farmer characters, Farmer Hoggett and his wife. And yet, even with talking animals on a farm, it still manages to have some heart, and it manages to touch on themes. I'm gonna get into those themes in a little bit, but just the structure of the story and how it's broken up into chapters, and how the movie even starts out even dark with this basically factory full of live pigs and all the adult pigs that give birth to their children, and then all the adult pigs, they go in a truck, and we all know where those pigs are going. They're going to get killed and slaughtered and turned to meat for humans to eat, while all the rest of the baby pigs, they're just left there. And yet this one pig, he manages to get lucky, and he gets adopted by Farmer Hoggett, and then he finds an even greater purpose beyond just being food. And through all the different chapters, we see him interact with all the different animals, and all the other animals, they know what the end result of this pig is going to be. And yet he manages to become a sheep pig, well, which is a sheep dog, and gives him an even greater purpose beyond what he's intended for. And everybody, including the farmer, begins to warm up to him, because the farmer, for all intents and purposes, he said at the beginning of the movie, he doesn't keep pigs. But for some reason, he is just endured by this pig. And once he sees what this pig can do, he is just all in. Number two, the themes. And there is a lot of themes to be admired about this film, from finding your purpose. Like I said, I mentioned the pig earlier, the title character, but then you also have some of the dogs. Some of the dogs, they go through a little crisis in themselves. Some of the other themes are family, because the pig, even though he's not with the family he was born into, but he finds a chosen family on this farm. And then there's also perseverance. Like I mentioned earlier, he finds a greater purpose beyond himself. And it's also through his empathy and caring for one another that all the other animals begin to endure themselves to the pig, and even with Farmer Hoggett. Number three, the cast. And I'm talking about both the human characters and the animal characters. You have Farmer, like I said, one of his most iconic lines, "That'll do, pig." But he's played by James Cromwell, in which this was the earliest thing I ever saw this man in. And he's just, in my mind, he has just been an old man all his life because of this movie. But he goes through an arc for himself throughout this movie, because he doesn't initially take a liking to the pig, but then he grows a liking to the pig, and after seeing what he can do as a sheep pig, and he just admires that. And his wife in the movie, who was initially against having a sheep pig, but then by the climax, which I'll get into in a little bit, she is just proud of him, and she is also the main human character in the second movie, Babe Pig in the City. He also had one of the most unintentionally funny scenes in the movie, where he finds the pig and he's a little sick and trying to give him to eat, and so he starts singing and doing this silly dance. But like I said, even some of the voice cast for the animals in the movie, like Babe is voiced by Christine Carnival. Forgive me if I mispronounce the name, but I know that she plays the voice of Chucky Finster in the Rugrats. You also got Fly and Rex, who are essentially the adopted parents of Babe. Fly initially takes a liking to Babe and wanted to care for her, and it's even more evident when Fly has to give up her pups, and it really is a gut-wrenching scene right here. And you just see, even for a dog, you can see the emotion on her face, and it's just so sad. And then that's followed up with this scene where the babe sees Fly sad, and he simply asks, "May I call you mom?" And she just embraces him. "I'm not crying, you're crying." And even Rex go through his own arc in the movie, because there is a backstory in which he was a sheepdog, and then he tried to save these sheep that basically drowned, and he was basically found alive, but his hearing was never the same. And then when it went through the sheepdog trials, he failed miserably, so he just feels like he has no purpose. And it's even more of a gut punch when the pig starts to become a sheep pig and starts doing all the things that he used to do, but then he comes back around in the end and even calls him son. Number 4, the music, which is by Nigel Westlake. Sorry, I had to look at that for a bit, but even the music, I just forgot how good this music is, and the music just works for this music. There is a orchestra, but at the same time, there's other elements to just make the original score for this movie just unique. And during the end credits of this movie, where we hear the rest that sound like chipmunks, they sing their own version of "If I Had Words" to, the song that Farmer Hoggett sung to the pig. There's their own version of that song, and it just works. It's random, but it just works. But he was cooking on the music, particularly during the climax of this movie, in which we get to number 5, the climax. Babe already built up a rapport with the sheep that he trained with, but then when he meets the sheep at the competition, they want nothing to do with him, so he's trying to figure out how to get to him. And so Fly and Rex, they figure out that there is a passcode for the other sheep. And now we get to the actual competition, in which Farmer Hoggett, he accepts that he has a pig, even though he becomes a laughing stock. Everybody's laughing at him. The crowd is laughing at him. Everybody is laughing at him, but he knows what he's doing. And luckily, Rex, he does reach the pig in time to tell him the passcode. And I like how even after the pig tells him the passcode, the sheep are like, wait a minute, what did you say? They tease us for a little bit. But then the moment the pig, he starts talking to the sheep and working up a rapport for them, that's when all the laughing stops, and he just goes silent. And everybody is just left stunned. Farmer Hoggett is just standing there, and yeah. And then the moment he closes the gate, that's when the audience erupted with applause and cheering, and it is triumphant. And to me, that's where the music really starts cooking. And then, of course, the movie ends with the famous line, "That'll do, pig." I don't think I illustrated it enough, but to me, this climax just works because it's tension-filled without being bombastic, and you feel all the stakes, and then when they do win in the end, it is triumphant. There are so many good things about this movie that rises up above being just your average family film about talking animals. And I also got to give that credit to George Miller, who didn't direct the movie, but he helped produce it. He helped get it made. And it's crazy because he's primarily known for the Mad Max movies. And then you see him here, and it's like, okay, you was cooking with this little family film about talking animals. And then he did go on to direct the sequel, Babe, Pig in the City, which I probably will give a rewatch at some point, just not anytime soon. Those are my top 5 reasons why Babe is one of the best family films of all time. And I am going to give Babe the hands up emoji because to me, it is a masterpiece. Thank y'all so much for watching. Have you seen Babe? You probably have. I mean, it's definitely a 90s classic. But anyways, have you seen this movie? If so, let me know what you think about this movie 30 years later in the comments section below. This is your boy, Bankful B of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Peace.